The millionaire discovers his wife sabotaged the brakes and heroically saves the male beggar. The night was dripping with glitz and glam, New York's elite flooding the grand ballroom like a sea of silk and diamonds. Crystal chandeliers threw cold light on Henry Vasconcelos, the millionaire everyone whispered about but rarely saw up close. Tonight, he was a living legend, smiling wide, shaking hands, champagne glass at his lips. Next to him, Patricia, a stunning woman with a smile as sharp as broken glass. She moved through the crowd like a queen, but there was something in her eyes that didn't reach her laughter, a secret lurking beneath the sparkle. Outside the gala, the city roared, but Henry's world began to twist sideways the moment he stepped into the valet. His mind was racing faster than his heartbeat, a sharp chill settling under his skin. That's when he noticed her, Sophia, skinny, dusty, and beady, and worn to the bone, but with eyes that seemed to see right through the glitter. His hands trembled as he checked again, the soft click of the brake pads catching his ragged breath. His mind snapped to Patricia. The glittering wife he had admired was hiding poison beneath her perfect surface. The thought squeezed his throat. Why? What had gone so wrong in their golden world? Before panic could take over, Sophia appeared again, this time with a whisper of warning, her voice rough yet oddly steady. She's planning something. You're not safe. The edges of Henry's carefully built life cracked open, spilling chaos inside. His heart slammed. Could he trust this beggar from the streets? Could he trust anyone in this night full of lies? As the gala's laughter and music swirled behind him, Henry felt the cold pit of betrayal clawing deeper. Patricia's smile was a mask, flawless but deadly, and Henry knew that tonight masks would fall. The crowd had no idea that beneath the surface of their sparkling party, disasters were ready to explode. Whispered secrets tangled with the clinking glasses, tension tightening like a noose around Henry's chest. The moment Henry realized he could save not just himself, but a stranger, his pulse shot wildly. The scene was surreal, the rich and powerful swirling past, the beggar standing firm beside the opulent millionaire, a silent promise in their uncertain alliance. This was no ordinary night. The air was thick with danger, trust breaking like glass in trembling hands. But as Henry prepared to face the storm brewing under the glimmering chandeliers, a shadow moved behind the crowd. Something darker, bigger than a wife's betrayal, stretched into his life. His phone buzzed in his pocket, an unread message blinking with icy silence. The words would change everything. The question, "Hun." A night had only just begun. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Henry's heart raced as he stared at his phone, the unread message hanging over him like a storm cloud. The laughter from the gala faded, replaced by the deafening roar of uncertainty. His fingers trembled over the screen. What if the message was from someone involved in the sabotage? Or worse, from Patricia herself? As he opened it, his breath caught in his throat. "We know about the brakes, Henry. Come home now. Don't trust anyone." The sender was simply listed as a friend. Panic flared through him. Who could know about the brakes? He felt his whole world hinge on this one moment. The wedding band on his finger now cold against his skin. "Henry, Sophia spoke, pulling him from his thoughts. Her dusty face showed a shadow of concern. "You okay?" "No," he admitted, the word escaping in a jagged whisper. "I need to go. I need to figure this out." His mind raced. Could he take her with him? But before he could decide, another wave of chaos swept through the crowd. A scream ripped through the air, sharp and slicing. Dressed in shimmering gowns and tuxedos, the elite turned, eyes wide, as a series of loud cracks echoed from the entrance. Then it happened. A figure burst through the doors, gasping, eyes wild. "He's coming! He's—" A flash, and suddenly, a blinding explosion shook the ground beneath them. Everything went white. The sound was like thunder, drowning out the cries and shattered glass. The pressure knocked Henry off his feet. He hit the ground hard, the rich fabric of his suit stained with dust and debris. When his vision cleared, he struggled to sit up. Sophia was beside him, her eyes wide, face pale with shock. "What just happened?" she croaked, the terror palpable in her voice. Henry scanned the ballroom, smoke billowing from where the entrance had been, screams intertwining with the chaos. People rushed, shoving through the shattered pieces of their perfect night. Panic surged around him as he clutched Sophia's arm. "Get out! We need to get out of here!" That was when the horrible realization crashed down on him. Patricia stood at the epicenter of the chaos, her expression twisted in horror, yet oddly serene, as if she knew something he didn't. Just then, she turned, locking her eyes on him. Her lips moved. "You should have trusted me." Everything clicked into place. The betrayal, the sabotage. Sophia had warned him for a reason. But before he could process it, a new sound sliced through the panic. A slow clap. It was deep, mocking, reverberating through the smoke and rubble. As the crowd parted, a figure emerged, tall, clad in black from head to toe. It was someone Henry never expected. "Hello, Henry. Did you miss me?" The face was familiar, twisted by darkness, but unmistakable. "Derek?" Henry gasped, shock coursing through him. Old rival, a ghost from his past. The world slipped away as the meaning hit him. This wasn't just about Patricia. This wasn't just a betrayal. Derek had orchestrated the entire night. It had all been a game, a trap. The crowd gasped, and Henry felt every ounce of confidence bleed from his body. The looming figure of his former friend beckoned closer, a smile full of malice. "Did you think you could escape me forever? Not when there's so much at stake." Henry's heart sank. The true nightmare was just beginning. The lines between friend and foe forever blurred. He was not just fighting for himself anymore. He was caught in a web that threaded through every bitter fight, every dream turned nightmare. What had started as a glamorous night of celebration had morphed into a catastrophic war of betrayal. Henry felt the weight of everything he'd built now threatened to shatter around him. The question echoed, who could he trust now? As the smoke curled around them, the darkness loomed closer. The night had twisted into something unrecognizable, and he had to find a way to survive before everything he loved vanished in the flames. As Henry's heart raced, the chaos of the ballroom faded into an uncanny stillness. Derek's twisted smile loomed larger, shadows flickering across the smoke-filled room. Henry's mind fought to keep up. Derek, his rival, the one he thought was long gone, now stood before him, pulling strings from the dark. "Did you think you can escape me forever?" Derek taunted, stepping closer. Henry's pulse quickened as panic clenched his throat. Every powerful connection, every elegant alliance he thought he had, was crumbling. But before Henry could speak, gasps erupted from the crowd. Some turned toward the entrance, where the smoke swirled ominously, shadows dancing like twisted nightmares. Then a surge of movement. Suddenly, like a lightning bolt, a figure emerged through the smoke, wrapped in what seemed to be a cloak of shadows. "Stop!" The voice pierced the air, sharp and commanding. as if the ground itself were bowing in acknowledgement. Henry squinted, trying to make sense of the figure. It was a woman, tall, fierce, commanding. As she stepped into the flickering light, the gasps turned to whispers, sensations of disbelief coursing through the assembly. The woman unveiled her dark hood, revealing striking features, the kind that could halt time. And in a flash, recognition flooded Henry's senses. "Margaret," he exclaimed, the name falling from his lips like a lifeline. The woman who had vanished from his life years ago, a fierce attorney, his one-time confidant. "I didn't expect to see you here," he stammered, shock merging with relief. "No one did," she replied, her voice steady, almost defiant. "Not even you, Henry. It's time you learned the truth." His heart sank deeper, the noise of chaos dimmed, shadows elongating, like truths yet to be revealed. Margaret had always been more than a friend. She had walked away from high-stakes partnerships, moved into the shadows, unraveling like a thread pulled from fabric. Why was she here now? She turned to Derek, her expression hardening. "You underestimated everyone. This night was never about Henry. It was always about the game you're too naive to see." Derek's mocking smile faltered for just an instant, and that flicker aimed a bolt of fear through Henry. "What do you mean?" Henry interjected, desperation clawing up the back of his neck. Margaret took a deep breath, and in that moment, the room seemed to hold its breath too. "Patricia, she's not the enemy, Henry." All the air left his lungs. The weight of her words crushed against his chest. "What are you saying?" "She was protecting you." But before she could elaborate, the ground quaked. The intense tremors rattled through their feet, knocking people off balance. Someone screamed, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the chaos. The ceiling began to crack, a shattering sound that pulled the spell from the moment, like a magician vanishing in thin air. Debris cascaded down, and Henry instinctively grabbed Sophia, pulling her close. "Get down," he shouted. The ballroom erupted into chaos again, as people fumbled to escape the crumbling structure. In the frenzy, Derek's expression twisted into something darker, revealing a flicker of true fear, as if he realized the plan was going horribly wrong. Henry looked back at Margaret, and their eyes locked. The urgency surged between them, pulsing like a heartbeat. There was so much left unsaid, so many truths waiting to burst forth, yet the shadows pressed in. "Find Patricia," Margaret yelled over the chaos, urgency radiating from her. "She holds the key, not just to this night, but to everything." Henry's heart raced in comprehension. Patricia was somehow at the center of it all. As the crowd staggered towards the exits, he felt the weight of his world shift again. The ground shook beneath him, the truth teetering on the edge. But then came the chilling sound, the unmistakable click of a gun barrel being pulled back, echoing through the dying lights. Henry's breath hitched. "Derek!" he shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Sophia. Derek only smirked. "You really think this is just about tonight? You're still playing checkers while I'm making moves." In that moment, everything Henry thought he knew shifted. With Margaret's truth, Derek's undercurrent of chaos, and the ricocheting panic in the ballroom, trust broke into splinters around him. And then, boom, a flash erupted, and in the blink of an eye, silhouettes vanished. Just like that, everything exploded into blinding light and deafening sound. As the room plunged into darkness, one thought echoed through Henry's mind. What had he truly learned? And what would be left when the dust settled? The explosion rattled through the air, like a beast awakening from slumber, blinding Henry in a storm of white and orange. Smoke enveloped him, and as his senses fought to find clarity, the world around him felt like it was crumbling. Each heartbeat pounded against his chest, echoing the chaos that unfurled in that grand ballroom. "Henry," he heard Margaret's voice, sharp as glass in the chaos, cutting through the thick smoke. It took him a moment to grasp her urgency. He blinked through the haze, gripping Sophia's elbow tighter as shouts morphed into frantic cries, fear spilling into madness. People pushed and shoved. Some tripped, others scrambled for safety. The air thickened with panic, raw and palpable. "Get outside, now!" he shouted, glancing around for Patricia. But the crowd shifted like water, drowning every familiar face. Then came a sound, too close, too real, a piercing scream, deep and heart-wrenching. It bounced off the walls, followed by another explosion that echoed through the marble like thunder. Henry flinched, his body jolting. "Behind you!" Sophia screamed, her eyes wide, filled with terror. In a heartbeat, shadows took form. Henry turned, ready to shield her. But the figure that emerged from the smoke was not Derek. It was Patricia, disheveled, eyes wild, her dress smudged with ash and dust. "Henry," she gasped, her voice strangled by urgency. "You need to listen. It wasn't me, I swear." But before he could respond, a cold chill slithered down his spine. A gunshot rang out, sharp and startling, silencing the chaos for a split second. The crowd froze, bodies suspended in fear. Henry spun around just in time to see Derek staggering backward, shock etched across his face. A trickle of blood stained his shirt. "What?" Henry breathed, disbelief gripping him. "I should have known," Derek spat through gritted teeth, aim shaking, eyes wild. "It was never about you. It's about the money, about the family legacy. You were just a pawn." Confusion twisted in Henry's gut, the puzzle pieces sliding out of place. "What are you talking about?" Then Patricia stepped closer, desperation in her voice. "Henry, please, this wasn't about the gala or even about us. It's deeper. You don't know. I was protecting you from Derek all along." But Derek laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Protecting him? You're the one who led him right to the heart of it. The secrets aren't just mine," he sneered, his eyes flickering with rage. "They're family secrets, the Vasconcellos legacy." Suddenly, the ground shook violently beneath them. A beam fell from the ceiling, and in that moment of distraction, a silhouette ghosted through the smoke. Enough, it was Margaret, standing firm. "The real danger is not Derek or Patricia. It's time you knew the truth." Henry's heart raced as he faced her. "What truth? Just tell me, please." Margaret stepped closer. "The night isn't what it seems. You were never meant to survive the gala. It was never about any of us. It was about the heiress, the one you never knew existed." Every breath became heavy, each word hitting harder than the last. "What are you saying?" "We're half-siblings, Henry." Her voice broke, raw with pain. "You and they wanted to erase you, erase your whole existence. Derek helped them all along." Shock turned Henry's world upside down. His legs weakened beneath him as everything spiraled out of control. No, this can't be," he stammered. The world cracked open, revealing depths of betrayal that reshaped everything Henry thought he knew. Margaret was more than a friend, she was blood. But the sounds of chaos rushed back in. A scream split the air, followed by Derek's crazed laughter. "Welcome to the family, Henry. You've always been a target." It was too much. Too much to digest, too much to bear. As the haze deepened and the smoke thickened, it felt like the walls were closing in. "Henry!" Patricia shouted, but his world had spun too far. Everything spiraled into shadow, and as pieces of his life crumbled, a new question rose within him, sharp and piercing. Who could he trust now? He felt the weight of betrayal, legacy, and blood tugging him in every direction, leaving him standing on the edge of a dark abyss. The night was far from over, and as he gripped Sophia's hand, he knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Henry stood there, paralyzed. The revelation hung in the air, thick as smoke. Half-siblings? His mind spiraled, trying to process Margaret's words. He glanced at Sophia, eyes wide with questions and fear. "Henry, we need to move," Patricia urged, sparks of panic in her voice. But the entire ballroom felt like a trap, a cage made of shadows and lies. To hear that the enemy could also be family sliced deep. The reality of betrayal was pressing down hard like the ceiling above, construction crumbling around them. Just as he turned to run, an explosion thundered through the air, blasting fragments of the ceiling into a shower of debris. Screams filled the air, and the acrid smell of smoke wafted brutally close, clawing at his throat. "Over here!" Margaret shouted, and they stumbled toward a side door, but the panic clung to them like the smoke. The crowd surged, frantic, pushing against Henry and his friends. As they pressed closer to the exit, he caught sight of Derek. The man was staggered, blood trickling from his side as he fought to regain focus. Yet there was an odd grin playing on his lips. "Run, Henry. Save yourself," he cried. But laughter seeped like poison into his words. Suddenly, something cold and heavy crashed into the air. A burning piece of the chandelier, swinging down, narrowly missing Patricia, but sending her reeling backward. "Patricia!" Henry shouted, reaching for her. And then everything shifted again. Derek lunged forward with desperate strength, grabbing a piece of glass and pointing it at Henry. "You need to know about the vault. The truth's in there. The real reason they want you dead." The room twisted around them, doubt skimming like ice over the surface of a frigid lake. For a flash, Henry felt his chest tighten, teetering on the brink of everything he thought he knew. Did Derek still live in that world of lies? Or was he breaking free? But before he could respond, Derek switched, like a light flickering off, and that smirk faded. He gripped the shard tighter, fury igniting. "You never understood, did you? You were just another pawn, but I plan to end that." "Derek, stop this!" Henry shouted, his heart pounding. Was this the end of everything? A voice shattered the intensity. "Enough!" It was Sophia, stepping forward, her face a blend of resolve and something Henry hadn't seen before. Determination. "You don't know the full story. In a heartbeat, everything came crashing down." Sophia's hands raised, and the moment was surreal. Her eyes blazed with anger and anguish, as if the very air crackled around her. She turned to Derek, her lips moving fast, voice trembling. "I know more than you think. You'll never win." "What are you?" Henry began, but shock twisted at the corner of his mind. And then, just like that, a blinding light enveloped them. This was no ordinary explosion. It felt like the very essence of the gala erupted in a riot. A wave of energy, releasing a tidal wave of memories, images of their past, of secrets hidden in walls. When the light faded, the crowd was frozen. Henry gasped. Around them, everyone who had been standing was now kneeling, every face bearing the weight of horror. The laughter, the music, gone. A shudder rippled through the crowd, voices lost to shock. And in that silence, Henry realized what stood at the center. The vault wasn't just a room. It was a heartbeat beneath their feet. The secrets of generations layered within its depths. Sophia looked at him, and the truth in her gaze sliced deeper than anything he had felt tonight. "They're not just after you, Henry. You are the vault." The world shifted again. A sudden memory pulled through the fog in Henry's mind, flashes of whispered conversations and guarded glances. He staggered back, breath hitching. Then Derek raised his hands, eyes wide, fury draining away. "No, you don't know what they did." But it was too late. The game was afoot. The truth was writing itself into the air, every breath heavy with a future he never anticipated. In that cacophony of unknowns, the question echoed louder than the explosion. What had they unleashed? And as shadows crept closer, the answers seemed darker than he could imagine. The night was far from over. The moment hung heavy in the air, every heartbeat an urgent reminder of the chaos surrounding them. Henry felt the weight of Margaret's proclamation, "You are the vault." Those words echoed, fracturing his reality like the glass shattered around them. Panic raced through him, quickening with every breath. He was fighting a battle on too many fronts. Derek leaned back on the edge of the guilt-soaked silence, a smirk twisting his lips. "You really thought you were the center of this? It's so much bigger." Henry's heart pounded. "Bigger than what?" he demanded, a lump forming in his throat. But before Derek could answer, the ground shook again. A deep rumble like thunder that rolled beneath their feet. It momentarily distracted the crowd, creating a moment of stillness, an eerie calm that sliced through the chaos. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps of shock rippled through the crowd, and a wave of pure terror surged. Henry's breath came fast, tightening like a vice around his chest. "Margaret," he called out, but all it returned was silence. And just when it seemed the tale of betrayal couldn't weave deeper, a scream splintered the darkness, a sound unlike anything he had ever heard, high and chilling, piercing his heart. Over it all, a voice rang out from the shadows, "You'll never escape." Before Henry could process it, shadows emerged from the mist. They moved like whispers, and in that blink of an eye he realized he knew one of them. A memory flashed, a woman from a painted past he thought he had buried. "Mom?" The words slipped through his lips, trembling with disbelief. There she was, standing defiantly, eyes fierce as fire. "You have to choose, Henry. We don't have much time." Time warped. The sensation clawed at Henry. Confusion, joy, betrayal rolled into a chaotic blend. "What are you doing here? I thought you were—" But she continued, urgency swallowing her words. "They want you because of what you hold. You are not just a pawn. You are the key. The vault isn't a place, it's you." And Derek, realizing the tide was shifting, snarled, "This is impossible. You promised you'd stay out of it." "Promises are made to be broken," she shot back, her voice echoing with an intensity that sent shivers down Henry's spine. The crowd murmured, caught between fear and disbelief, eyes darting like scared animals seeking escape. Henry's world tilted again, the solid ground becoming unsteady beneath him. He stared at his mother, really seeing her for the first time, not as the ghost he imagined, but as a fierce protector. "Why now?" he breathed, surrendering to the weight of all the unwritten stories. "Why after all this time?" "I came to warn you," she cried, desperation slicing through the tension. "They want you to unlock the vault, secrets meant to drown the powerful." At that moment, Henry felt the ground crack, a fever dream unraveling in his mind as the truth scraped against reality. His mother, the secrets she harbored, the choices that led to his isolation, they were tangled with a legacy he never understood. With a sudden surge of resolve, he stepped forward, hands raised. "Enough. You want me. You take all of me." But as the words fell out, another explosion howled. The ground shook violently, sending everyone stumbling back. In the chaos, Derek lunged forward, raising the shard threateningly as the dust settled. The room blurred, shadows swallowing the scene. But through the chaos, a single truth broke through. Is this life he thought he knew even real? As the dust thickened and screams pierced the silence, judgment loomed close. Henry had no way back, no safe harbor left in this storm of secrets. He inhaled deeply, grasping the silence, knowing everything was about to change. All he could do was keep pushing forward, toward whatever truths waited just beyond the haze. What lay ahead was uncertain, but it was his path to carve. That was when he realized he didn't know who he could trust, not even his own blood. And in that moment, doubt clawed at him, swirling with fear and anticipation as the darkness whispered of impending revelations. The night, it turned out, had only just begun to unravel. Henry stood frozen, caught between startling revelations and shattering chaos. His mother, alive right in front of him, blazed with urgency. But the ground swayed, reality splintering around him. It was surreal, terrifying, enough to steal the breath from his lungs. The room spun, a tight ball of tension threatening to snap. "Henry, we need to go." Patricia's voice broke through, pulling him back to urgency. The smoke rolled closer, carrying with it the scent of fear and danger. He glanced at Derek, who seemed to be pacing, eyes flicking between the chaotic crowd and the truth he was desperate to hide. "You're not my mother," Henry mouthed, disbelief twisting like a knife in his gut. Shadows danced, warping the faces of those around him. "No time for that now," she cried, tugging at his arm, drawing him into the midst of panic. The crowd churned, eyes wide with horror, uncertainty saturating the air. "Move! Just push!" he shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins as they fought their way toward a side exit. But the moment felt like an eternal maze, bodies pressing, fear clinging like a second skin. Just then, the air filled with a low rumble, and Henry felt it again, that tremor beneath their feet. He glanced back, catching a glimpse of Derek, his expression twisted, eyes wild with desperation. "It's all going to collapse," Derek screamed, his voice cracking with madness. "You don't understand. She's not here to save you." And that was the moment. Everything shifted. Before Henry could yell back, a loud bang echoed in the chamber. The roof crackled like a whip. And then, with a deafening roar, the lights burst back to life, flickering desperately as the floor shook again. In that instant, his mother's eyes turned unfocused, uncertainty creeping into her expression. "What did I tell you?" She shot back at Derek, voice rising above the din. But no one had time for answers. The room was spinning, shadows extending beyond the walls. Suddenly, a blinding flash exploded from the entrance, sending waves of panic crashing through the crowd as the chandelier above them swayed perilously. "Watch out!" someone screamed, and a surge of bodies pulled Henry backward, away from the falling debris. He watched in horror as the massive glass structure fell, shards splitting the air like daggers, each one a promise of devastation. But then, as if time slowed, the unbelievable happened. Margaret, Henry's mother, leapt in front of him. "Run!" she yelled, pushing Henry aside. The glass shattered around her, piercing through her skin, her eyes meeting his for one split second, fear and resolve mingling in a heartbreaking farewell. "Mom!" he screamed, reaching out, but it was too late. The sound of her body hitting the ground shattered what little hope had remained. The world spun into chaos, screams erupting into a cacophony of terror. The fraction of a second stretched long, panic wrapping around Henry's heart like a vice. Sophia staggered beside him, eyes wide, breath coming in sharp gasps. "Henry, we have to go! Now!" The silence swallowed the cries, and reality hit with the force of a tidal wave. Derek's laughter pierced through it all, delirious and sickening. "Did you truly think I would let her protect you?" The madness in his voice twisted with a strange satisfaction. "Welcome to your family legacy, Henry." Hit by the weight of loss, everything he thought he knew shattered. It was all a game, an elaborate web of lies, strung tight against the backdrop of wealth and privilege. "Come on," Patricia shouted, urgency breaking through the fog of despair. And as they turned to flee into the smoke, a single thought twisted in his mind. Who was protecting whom in this game, and how much of this reality had been scripted all along? In that devastating moment, fear gripped him, a reality he never asked for, a legacy stained with blood. and as he felt the first sting of tears welling up, Henry knew one brutal truth. They were all part of something much, much darker than he had ever imagined. The night was just beginning. Henry felt the pulsing dread in the pit of his stomach. They had to move, now. He glanced at Patricia, panic etched in her face. The chaos around them blurred as they pushed through the crowd, adrenaline surging in his veins. Shadows twisted, and screams echoed like fractures in reality. "Where's Margaret?" he shouted, a stab of worry lancing through him as he scanned the smoke-filled room. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Patricia yelled, shoving past a throng of silk and desperation, her eyes darting as if searching for an escape route. The panic hung in the air like a heavy fog, suffocating and choking, blurring the edges of his sanity. They finally burst through a door leading to the back of the building, gasping for breath. The cool night air hit Henry's face, momentarily clearing the haze in his head. But fear gripped his heart tighter. He quickened his pace, pulling Sophia along with him. Her eyes were wide, filled with a mix of fear and confusion. "What just happened back there?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "It doesn't matter now. We need to find a safe place," he urged. But even as the words left his mouth, he felt the tightening coil of dread. They were still in danger, the chaos from the gala trailing closely behind them like a storm cloud. Just then, a loud crash erupted from inside the building, a wall collapsing under the strain of the debris, and Henry turned, instinctively shielding Sophia. The night's stillness shattered with screams. Broken glass still rained from the upper floors, reflecting shards of silver moonlight as they fell. "Stay close," he barked, adrenaline pumping. They stumbled away from the crumbling structure, but fear clawed at his insides. They were not safe yet. Out in the street, confusion roared. People fled, some crying, some shouting for loved ones. But as they moved further from the chaotic gala, Henry's mind reeled. Where were his mother and Derek? What had happened to them in the pandemonium? Lost in thoughts, he almost didn't see the figure emerging from the smoke behind him, cloaked in sudden darkness. It was Margaret, emerging from the shadows, blood streaming down her arm, her face pale. "Henry, you need to listen," she gasped, fear and urgency intertwined in her voice. "Mom!" He rushed to her side, heart racing. "What happened? Are you okay?" "I don't have much time." She sounded strained, frantic. "You have to understand, I didn't just come back to warn you. I wanted to protect you from the truth." "What truth?" Panic licked at his throat as the reality of her blood-stained clothes hit him. Before she could respond, a loud crack surged through the air. A sudden explosion erupted from the gala's entrance, throwing debris like confetti. People screamed and scattered, and the horror dawned on him all over again. Margaret's eyes locked onto his, fixing him in place. "The vault, it's not just a family secret. It's about power. They're planning something monstrous." Derek's laughter rang out from behind her, distorted and manic. "Did you really think coming back was going to save you? You're too late," he shouted, the shadows creeping closer. "Stay back," Henry yelled, hands instinctively raising, trembling with anger. But as Derek stepped closer, a shocking silence fell. He raised a finger to his lips, the madness in his eyes gone. "Did you really think I wouldn't know?" Henry's heart dropped. "What did you do?" Without warning, Derek smashed a small device against the ground, and the air turned electric. A low hum vibrated through the pavement, pulsating beneath their feet, a beat that quickened every pulse of fear inside them. Margaret's eyes widened in horror. "No, you can't!" But it was too late. The sound spiraled, ringing louder, drowning out their voices. In that moment, everything shifted. A blinding light engulfed them, waves of energy coursing through the air. Thick and intoxicating, And suddenly, everything went black. When the world flickered back to life, Henry stood alone. The shapes of the people he loved were gone, replaced by a chilling silence. He felt a sudden wave of nausea, the reality of the moment crashing down. Where had they gone? Mom? Sophia? Patricia? He shouted into the void, but no one answered. Then he caught a glimpse of something in the distance, a shadow moving, familiar but distorted. As he moved closer, dread twisted around him. What he saw next stopped his heart. It was a reflection of himself, twisted and wrong. And behind it, a voice echoed, low and haunting. "You're one of us now, Henry. You've always been one of us." As the weight of betrayal pressed heavy on his chest, the world wavered, reality shifting around him. What had he become, and what darker paths lay ahead? Henry stood alone, the echo of his mother's voice and Derek's twisted laughter throbbing in his ears. The reflection in front of him, warped and sinister, bore his features, but seemed to pulse with a life of its own. It felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath his feet, reality dizzying as the air thickened around him. "Who are you?" he whispered, fear creeping through him like vines constricting a sapling. But the shadow only grinned wider, its smile hollow. Then, with every ounce of strength, Henry shouted, "Get away from me!" The shadow lurched forward, but just as it did, something else clicked into place, a memory flooding back, faces and voices rushing through his mind like a tidal wave. Suddenly, a sound pierced the thick silence, sharp and clear, like glass shattering. A flicker of blue light illuminated the darkness momentarily, casting eerie shadows on the walls. He turned to see a device, glowing ominously, nestled among the debris. A heartbeat later, a spark ripped through the air. The device exploded with a blinding flash, bright enough to sear the back of his eyelids. "Henry!" someone screamed, but the voice was swallowed by chaos as the explosion sent shockwaves through the ground. When the dust settled, he found himself not in a void, but back in the gala, muffled sounds and screams fading like a distant echo. He blinked, trying to shake off the disorientation. The ballroom was still in ruins, but people were alive, moving again, jostling each other in panic. But everything was wrong. The crowd was different, faces he didn't recognize staring back at him with vacant eyes. Panic twisted in his gut. He looked to his side, and there was Sophia, but she looked distant, as if the chaos had warped her image. "It's happening," he shouted, but she didn't respond, her mouth moving without sound, like a scene from a movie paused before the climax. Then he spotted Margaret, but she was not the same. Her demeanor shifted into something darker, eyes fixed on him with an intensity that felt like fire. "Henry, listen! You need to!" But before she could finish, her phone flickered, like a bad transmission breaking apart. Shadows enveloped her, and Henry's heart raced. "No, come back!" He reached for her, but she vanished into thin air, and with that, a strange clarity washed over him. He gasped. The realization hit like a freight train. The gala was an illusion, layers peeling away to reveal something deeper and darker at play. Derek appeared from the shadows, blood still trickling down his face, but the fear in his eyes was gone, replaced by a madness deceptively calm. "You think you can escape this? You are part of it, Henry. Always have been." Whispers rustled through the crowd, confusion brimming as he shouted, "What do you mean?" Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from above. The chandeliers rattled ominously, the lights flickering dangerously. People shrieked as debris began to tumble from the ceiling. And amidst the chaos, something unexpected happened. Henry felt a surge of energy, raw and powerful, emanating from within him, as if the truth buried deep was clawing its way to the surface. "Henry, you need to focus," Sophia shouted, finally breaking through the haze of confusion. "You don't understand." But before he could respond, Derek lunged at him with a wild look in his eyes, a glint of something metallic reflecting in the half-light. "This ends tonight!" In a whirlwind of movement, the world swirled again, and just then, before Henry could catch his breath, he saw it, a flash of gold on the ground, a hidden latch revealing itself just as Derek sprang toward him. Without thinking, he dove, grasped the latch with trembling fingers, and pulled. It swung wide, the earth crashing beneath him, and within it, a cascade of secrets flooded out like serpents breaking free from their confines. What burst forth filled Henry with horror. Documents, photographs, connections. Broken relationships, hidden wealth, betrayals sprawled across the pages. A legacy of lives intertwined in darkness, and among them, smiles that twisted into sinister grins. At that moment, everything. He stumbled back, eyes wide in shock. Each image revealed was a thread tying his mother, Patricia, even Derek, into a web of lies so intricate it choked the air around him. And then came the sickening realization that rattled him to the core. They all knew. The betrayal clawed its way into his veins. All of them. The ground trembled beneath them as chaos took form, spirits rising from the ashes of the truth, shadows flickering in and out of existence. And as the explosion drew nearer, Henry stood frozen in a tempest of revelation. The crowd began to murmur, whispers rising and falling like waves. "What kind of monster are you?" someone hissed. But the true shock loomed closer, lurking on the horizon. Just before the veil lifted from his reality, a single voice emerged from the shadows, soft, chilling, full of betrayal. "Welcome home, Henry." The world stopped. In the flickering chaos, the hint of a smile, familiar yet grotesque, twisted into view. And it all crashed down around him. How much was true? How deep was the betrayal? Henry swallowed hard. The heart of the storm was closing in, and he had to find a way through. The night, he realized, was far from over. Henry's heart raced as he stared at Derek's twisted smile, the weight of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. The truth was out. It felt like a storm brewing inside him. "You've played your games, Derek," he shouted, voice trembling. "But I'm not backing down this time." Derek laughed, that manic echo sending shivers down Henry's spine. "Back down? You don't get it, do you? This is only the beginning. You're trapped in a web of your own making." The shadows loomed, hungry for the chaos, but Henry refused to let fear consume him. Just then, the walls began to shake like they were alive, and the lights flickered dangerously. "Run!" Margaret's voice, strained but determined, cut through the madness. "We can't stay here." With adrenaline surging, Henry grabbed Sophia's hand, dragging her behind him as devastation unfolded around them. They burst through the chaos, heart pounding, ears ringing with screams and glass shattering behind them. "It's not just about the vault," Margaret shouted, pushing through the crowd. "You need to understand the secrets. They're dangerous." Henry's chest tightened. "What do they want from me?" But before she could answer, a figure darted out from the debris. Patricia, panic etched on her face. "Over here! This way!" she yelled, rushing toward them. Relief flooded through him, but it was fleeting. Derek was closing in, a shadow of malice, determined to finish the game. They pushed into the street, the night air thick with smoke and uncertainty. The world felt like it was collapsing, panic bubbling over. "Where's Derek?" Sophia gasped, glancing back. "He's coming!" Henry shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. But amid the madness, Margaret stood firm, eyes ablaze. "He needs to know," she insisted, stepping between Henry and the chaos. "You have to accept your role in this, Henry. It's about the legacy. You can't run from it." Suddenly, that twisted grin from Derek reappeared in the doorway. "What are you all waiting for? The entire legacy is about to be revealed." With fierce resolve, Henry shouted back, "Not while I'm still standing." The truth hung in the air, heavy with consequences. People were fleeing, yet moments felt infinite. The crowd stunned, trapped between despair and hope. It swirled around them like smoke, chaos tangling into a ball of secrets. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crack thundered through the night as a building beam fell nearby. Instantly, Henry's instincts kicked in, and he pulled Sophia closer, shielding her from the cascading debris. They stumbled back, almost losing their footing. In the chaos, he caught a glimpse of Margaret, looking small yet unyielding. "You have the strength, Henry. Use it," she urged, her voice fierce amidst the tumult. A glimmer of something ignited in his chest, a spark of courage pushing through the fear. With a sudden surge of determination, Henry stepped forward, facing Derek head-on. "This ends now," he declared, feeling the weight of all those who had come before him. "I won't be a pawn in your game anymore." But just as those words left his lips, Derek lunged. The piercing roar of chaos surrounded them. The world descended into turmoil. And then, silence. Henry opened his eyes. Time seemed to stand still. He found himself back in the ballroom, the debris around him transformed into golden light. Everyone was there. Patricia, Margaret, even Derek, all staring, not in panic, but in contemplation. Was it a trick? A cruel joke? No, it felt different. It felt like a choice. "What is happening?" he whispered, confusion raging in his heart. Margaret stepped closer, softer now. "You control the legacy, Henry. Choose how it unfolds." Possibilities opened like branches, moments narrowing. He saw the faces of those who would suffer, but also the light that could emerge from the darkness. With a deep breath, he stepped toward it all, toward the light. "I choose truth. I choose to fight for what's right," he declared. It was a promise, reverberating deep in his soul. As the ground shook again, shadows trembled at his back. A shift began, and he could feel hope sparking, igniting in a world that had long been wrapped in darkness. And just like that, everything exploded into brilliant light, and then faded away. When reality returned, Henry opened his eyes to silence, the weight of everything shifting within him. The echoes of choices made lingered like distant whispers. "I did it," he breathed, though uncertainty lingered still. Every face looked at him with a mixture of admiration and fear. What had he truly unleashed? The night held its breath. Questions swirled, each one more complex than the last. And in the depths of his heart, he knew this was just the beginning. The credits were only starting to roll. And now, before you go anywhere, this is your moment. You must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let's get this conversation going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear from you. And don't wait one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Only true fans understand that your support is what keeps this community alive.